Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello everyone, it's Zainab. Welcome back to my daily reading of Nahjul Balagha. So today, inshallah, I want to read to you Sermon 3, which is pretty short, inshallah. But before I do, I just want to apologize and correct myself about something. A kind brother had pointed out that I keep saying that Imam Ali alayhi salam is the author of this book, which is of course false, and I apologize. May Allah forgive me also for saying this false thing. So of course you are right, brother. Imam Ali alayhi salam is not the author of this book. This book was compiled probably 300 or 400 years after Imam Ali alayhi salam by a man called Shafi. I wrote it down in my notebook, just give me a second. Sharif al-Radi, who was a Shia scholar, and he actually traveled to a few different countries like Iraq, Iran, Medina maybe, which is not a country, I know. This is Saudi Arabia, to collect all the different, or as many as he could find, sermons that were delivered by Imam Ali mostly during his caliphate, as well as letters that he had written mostly during his caliphate. Some probably maybe a few before his caliphate, but not very many. Most of them were during his caliphate. So Sharif al-Radi traveled around to different places to collect as many as he could find that had been written down. I'm not sure if he did much of the writing down, but or if they were, by the time he collected them, if they had already been written down, I'm not sure. But yeah, so that happened about 300 or 400 years after Imam Ali alayhi salam. So he collected them all together and then compiled them into this book, which he then called Nahjul Balagha, which means the path of eloquence. So yeah, so please forgive me for my mistake, and thank you, brother, for correcting me on that. Also, there was another question about authenticity and chains of narrators for the sermons and the letters, or maybe just for the sermons, I'm not sure. So I did a little bit of research, and what I found was that so at the time that a lot of these sermons were delivered by Imam Ali alayhi salam during his caliphate, he was only caliph for 4 years, very short time compared to the others. But at the time that he delivered these sermons, a lot of people memorized them, and they were passed down, not by writing them down, but like orally. So they were passed down orally and spread orally. So a lot of people, because they were so eloquent, hence why it's called Path of Eloquence, a lot of people memorized them, and many people memorized them. So there's not really like a clear chain of narration, because so many people knew them by heart. So by the time that someone decided to write them down, a lot of people knew them already. So they just wanted to write them down to keep them in record, I guess. So that's just what I found. If you guys want to correct me or elaborate on what I said, please do so. I'm more than welcome to, and I'm so open to learning more. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm gonna read Sermon 3, inshallah, today. So this is an excerpt from one of his sermons. So that means that, correct me if I'm wrong, but it just says it's an excerpt from one of his sermons, which to me means, and I might be wrong, to me means it's not the whole sermon, it's just part of the sermon. But the sermon from which this has been taken is known as the Shakshakiyya, and it includes his complaint about the caliphate issue, why he was patient and did not demand it for himself, and how people swore the oath of allegiance to him. Okay, so here we go. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. By Allah, the son of Abu Kufaha. Okay. By Allah, the son of Abu Kufaha, which is Abu Bakr, outfitted himself with it, the caliphate, while fully knowing that my status in relationship to it is the same as that of the axis in relationship to the hand mill. flood of knowledge flows down from me. A bird does not rise higher than me. I put a curtain against the caliphate and kept myself detached from it. Then I began to think about whether I should assault or calmly endure the blinding darkness of tribulations wherein the grown-ups grow feeble and the youngsters grow old. A true believer acts under strain till he meets Allah on his death. I found endurance thereon to be wiser. So I adopted patience, although there was a prickling in the eye and suffocation in the throat. I watched the plundering of my inheritance till the first one went his way, handing the caliphate over to Omar ibn al-Khattab after him. Omar ibn al-Khattab. Then he quoted a verse of poetry by Al-Ash'a, and that's Imam Ali, so it's just a commentary saying, then he quoted a verse of poetry, which is this: my days are now passed on the camel's back in hardship, while there were days in ease when I enjoyed the company of Jabir's brother Hayyan. And that's the end of the poem. Okay, he continues with the sermon. It is odd how during his lifetime he, as in Abu Bakr, wished to be released from the caliphate burden, but he secured it for the other, as in Omar, after his death. There is no doubt these two men shared its udders strictly among themselves. This one put the caliphate in tough enclosure, where the utterance was haughty and the touch was rough. Mistakes are many, as well as the excuses for them. One in contact with it was like the rider of an unruly camel. If he pulled up its rein, the very nostril would be slit. I think because the reins are connected to a ring inside the camel's nose. But if he let it loose, he would be thrown. Consequently, by Allah, people got involved in recklessness, wickedness, unsteadiness, and deviation. Nevertheless, I remained patient despite a lengthy period and the hardship of the trial, until when he went his way, or died, he placed the matter of caliphate before a group, regarding myself to be one of its members. But good heavens, what had I to do with this consultation? Was there any doubt about me with regard to the first of them, that I was now considered akin to these men? Yet I remained low when they were low, and flew high even if they flew high. One of them turned against me because of his hatred, and the other was inclined the other way due to his in-law relationship, and this thing and that thing, till the third man of these people stood up with a heaving chest between his dung and fodder. With him, his offspring by the grandfather, Umayyah, also stood up, swallowing up Allah's wealth like a camel devouring the spring foliage till its rope broke down. Its deed finished him, its gluttony brought him down on its knees. At that moment, nothing took me by surprise except how the crowd of people rushed to me. They advanced towards me from every direction like the mane of a hyena, so much so that Hassan and Hussein were crushed, and both ends of my shoulder garment were torn. They gathered around me like a herd of sheep and goats. When I took up the reins of the government, one party broke away and another turned disobedient, while the rest began acting wrongfully, as if they had not heard the word of Allah, saying, "The abode is in the hereafter. We assign it for those who do not want to exalt themselves on earth, nor to make mischief, and the end is best for the pious," which is the Holy Quran, chapter 28, verse 83. And he continues with the sermon. Yes, by Allah, they had heard it and understood it, but life in this world appeared glittering in their eyes, and its embellishments seduced them. Behold, by him who split the grain to grow and created living beings, if people had not come to me and supporters had not exhausted the argument, and if there had been no pledge of Allah with the learned to the effect that they should not acquiesce in the gluttony of the oppressor and the hunger of the oppressed, I will not have cast the rope of caliphate on its own shoulders and given the last the same treatment as to the first. Then you would have seen that in my view, this world of yours is not better than a goat's sneeze. And that's it. That's it for, well, that's it for this part of the sermon. Yeah, and that's the only excerpt, I believe, in this book from that particular sermon. I mean, there's a lot of commentary about it. So honestly, I'm gonna do a lot of reading about it to kind of understand more, like what he meant, like the meaning of his words, because yeah, I don't really understand it. So I'm gonna come back to you and let you know, and I'll talk about it then. Okay, inshallah. I'll see you soon. Stay tuned.